Kamala Harris is diving into one of the stickiest and fraught foreign policy issues of our time, Israel's war against Hamas. The vice president is sitting down with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu this afternoon, just after his sit down with President Biden. The big question, what stance will Kamala Harris take on Israel, on the war against Hamas? Will she remain in lockstep with Joe Biden's
I got Hasan my love and support for his birthday.
CNN's Isaac Dover has new reporting on all of this, and it's great reporting this morning. Isaac, how big of a test is this for Harris?
How'd this man find a worse gift than a sticker?
Well, it's a huge test. As you say, this has been a pretty consequential week for Kamala Harris in her political life, and no big deal. Next up, she's got to deal with Israel. It's a politically fraught issue. It's an issue that she is under attack for already by some Republicans trying to make an issue out of it. It is something that has divided the Democratic Party.
It's an issue that Republicans have attacked her over it
for this whole year, and will be a part of the argument that is going on into November in tight states. And of course, she's also navigating Joe Biden, the incumbent president, whose stance on Israel is very clear and who is not done working on this issue as he tries to get a hostage and ceasefire deal. But it's so much going on that just yesterday, her husband, Doug Emhoff, got on a call of Jewish supporters to talk to them about trying to say what her position is on Israel, since it's such a big question. So let's take a listen to what happened there on that call.
That's wild. Okay. Like, I mean, it's not like a Jewish versus not Jewish boundary, but if we're doing that, like, are they going to get on calls with, are they going to campaign in Michigan? Like, are they going to go to Dearborn? Are they going to talk to like any Arab or Muslim voters, or what are we doing?
Let me just make this clear. Vice President Harris has been and will be a strong supporter of Israel as a secure, democratic.
He's hiding his background because it's actually all Rashid Khalidi and like Edward Said, all books. It's all prominent Palestinian authors. That's why he's hiding his background.
And Jewish state. And she will always ensure that Israel can defend itself, period. That's who Kamala Harris is.
So look, that's of course Emhoff himself, who's Jewish, talking about this, saying she's a strong supporter of Israel, but not getting deep into the details of it.
Yeah, the details obviously are almost everything here. I mean, Joe Biden is arguably...
Yeah, he's in a Hamas tunnel doing critical support. That's why he's not showing his background. He's just scared to show.
The most explicitly pro-Israel American president that we've...
Yeah, Douglas's daughter is like pro-Palestine. That should cause you to understand the generational split on this, by the way. Ella Emhoff, that man that you just saw, Douglas Emhoff, second gentleman, his own daughter is doing fundraisers for UNRWA and is pro-Palestine. That right there is a perfect representation. That small little photo right there is a snapshot of the generational divide on the issue of Palestine among American Jews. I'm finally listening to an audiobook from the 100-Year War on Palestine. I'm surprised how much I already understand just from watching you daily for months after October 8th. Yeah.
Seen. Does Kamala Harris fashion herself the same?
Well, that's an interesting question, Kate, because just 2 weeks ago, as Biden was trying to salvage his campaign, he yet again said in an interview that he is a proud Zionist. He said, you don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist. It's what we should all be. And yesterday, I asked Kamala Harris's office whether she considers herself a Zionist, and I did not get a direct yes or no answer to that. I did get a long statement from one of her aides saying that she supports Israel and the defense of Israel, also supports a Palestinian state, but did not engage on that one word of Zionism. That's a word that for a century meant one thing, but over the last year has become caught up in all sorts of politics, and especially from the left wing of the Democratic Party, trying to make that into a bad word. And clearly that is part of what Harris is trying to navigate here too.
Isaac, great reporting on this. Arguably, I think we'd said it earlier, the meeting with Joe Biden, important, of course, the current president, but arguably the more...
Is crazy, man. Is crazy. The boundaries of acceptability for even liberals, the progressives, supposedly, quote unquote progressives, is just like, are you unconditionally committed to the death and destruction of Palestinians? Or are you like kind of committed to it? Like anything outside of that, you're anti-Semitic and you're a monster. I mean, I guess it's good that she didn't say she's a Zionist, but like, holy shit. Yeah, the leftist Democrats are trying to turn Rhodesian ultranationalism into a bad word. Yeah, it's like crazy that the leftists have turned colonial genocide, settler colonialism and genocide into like a bad concept. It's kind of up. Maybe we should dial it back. It's giving anti-Semitism. We made it a bad word. Britannica describes Zionism as Jewish nationalist movement that has had its goals as the creation and support of a Jewish national state in Palestine. So what he means by that is people used to not give a shit about it, and now people are aware that it means like 40,000 dead Palestinians, which, you know, that is the real calculation here. She supports a Palestinian state. That's good, I guess. So does Joe Biden on paper. Joe Biden literally says he's a Zionist, and then we'll also say, hold on, my door is ringing. Calling settler colonialism bad is anti-American, obviously. I mean, yeah, it is. You're projecting. Totally unbiased reporter. What do you mean? It literally always was a bad word. These people are the ones trying so hard to make it a good word. Yeah.
Mr. Sitting down with the VP now. It's good to see you. Sarah.
It's a great point. Washington Post columnist Josh Rogan is joining me now to discuss more. She was the first person in the Biden administration to publicly call for a ceasefire. Do you expect her to be harder on Netanyahu than Joe Biden has been?
Sure. Well, you couldn't have imagined a month ago when Speaker Johnson invited Prime Minister Netanyahu to speak to Congress that Kamala Harris would be the presumptive nominee and that Joe Biden would essentially be a lame duck. And now that she has this new role, what she says in this meeting with Netanyahu will be extremely important. And what her office is already putting out is that she's going to deliver a tough message, that she's going to warn him that if he doesn't shift his policies to be more in line with both what the Biden administration wants in terms of securing a ceasefire.
Yeah. Listen, I won't be fucking glazing you. You better figure it out or else I'll have some stern words, okay? So far, I'm sorry, but this is so far just like carbon copy Biden. Like Biden was like, oh, I'm going to have Bibi have a come to Jesus moment. Biden, who says he's a Zionist, while simultaneously also says he believes in two states. Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't, though. So what do we do? I don't care if people say, oh, this is like leftist infighting or whatever. I think the Vote Uncommitted campaign coming out and applying pressure is actually good. They're still relatively weak. There's still much more work to be done in terms of like securing the re-election. Like, you know, polls still favor Donald Trump. I think it's perfectly fair to demand more assurances from Kamala Harris. Your vote is not to be taken for granted. It's ridiculous. That's not how this works. The young voters sure helped Bernie. They don't care. Yeah, dude, that's the primaries, man. I don't know if you know that, but I mean, the primaries actually this time around didn't look too good for the Democrats anyway. But there's a big difference between the youth vote in terms of the primaries or even the midterms this time around. The Democratic Party cannot take the youth vote for granted, and they certainly do not have it right now, you know? So what are we doing here? There are ways to try to communicate with the administration, or rather the re-election campaign, and I think that they should keep up the pressure entirely. 15.45. Nice. Almost 16 ounces, almost a pound. What are you eating? Chicken, as always, as I do every day at this time, every single day. Personally, I think Netanyahu, not a nice guy, yeah.
But also in terms of giving more aid and dignity and agency to the Palestinians in Gaza, that the policy could change under her watch. That they're not saying that, they're just signaling that. And that's something that Netanyahu has to take very seriously. On the other hand, if she doesn't win, then Trump comes back in and Netanyahu will have a free hand. So it could go either way for them.
You mentioned Trump. He is also going to be meeting with Donald Trump, who is the presumptive Republican presidential nominee. What do you expect there, and how unusual is that? He's hedging his bets, clearly.
Yeah, no, every foreign leader in the world is trying to make inroads with the Trump administration. Whether you're President Zelensky or Prime Minister Kishida or Prime Minister Netanyahu, you're trying to meet with Trump or someone close to Trump. And I think that's actually totally normal and should be non-controversial. But I think what you'll see in the meeting between Netanyahu and Trump is a love fest, and a promise from Trump that all of these pressures that the Biden administration and especially a possible Harris administration are threatening would not occur under his watch. And of course, Netanyahu is going to love that message. So he'll have a very stark difference between his two interactions. And like I said, he can't be sure. None of us can be sure who's going to win. So I think he just has to play it cool and try to listen to both and not anger either. And that's the needle that he's trying to thread while he's here in Washington.
I do want to ask you about this moment where Netanyahu, speaking to Congress, went after pro-Palestinian protesters here in America who have been protesting because they are angry about the death toll and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Here's what he said about American protesters.
I have a message for these protesters. When the tyrants of Tehran, who hang gays from cranes and murder women for not covering their hair, are praising, promoting, and funding you, you have officially become Iran's useful idiots.
What do you make of what he said in some of his comments? He also said that the protesters were pro-Hamas, for and killers. And, you know, some of the protesters, a good deal of them are Jewish Americans.
Wow.
Right. I mean, I've been talking to
What? CNN? Am I watching Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman? What's going on right now? That's shocking. That is, wow. That is weird. I mean, the bar is so low for mainstream media that like just accurately reporting the events as they happened is literally like unexpected, especially on this issue.
protesters in Washington.
I said this is early news, bro. This video literally has more views than most of CNN's views in 8 hours. What are you talking about
This for the last 10 months, and a very small portion are those who actually support Hamas or what they're doing. The vast majority have what I consider to be legitimate concerns with Israeli conduct during the war and the treatment of Palestinians, and that's shared. Those concerns are shared by a lot of Israelis, not just Jewish Americans like this Jewish American, but a lot of Israelis and every age group on the ground. So Netanyahu, I think, missed an opportunity to acknowledge that these are legitimate concerns and denigrated these protesters, and I don't think that's good for Israel or for the Palestinians, to be honest.
That was wow. If only we had someone lean into this a little bit.
We begin.
Perhaps the wife of the person that was in the title, who now has a unique opportunity to do the right thing. Seems like Seth Rogen and CNN are participating in Hamas propaganda, by the way. The change from Biden to Harris is a clean slate for the ticket, but if they continue on the course that Biden said, I'm not voting for her, I can't in good conscience vote for someone who allows what I've seen with my eyes. Yeah, perfectly fair.
And with President Biden's history-making speech last night from the Oval Office, he explained his decision not to seek re-election, saying it's time for younger voices. Biden defended his record as president, listing a series of accomplishments. And he called on Americans to, quote, preserve our democracy, and suggested that in this election.
Y'all are so privileged in this chat. Yeah, you're right, dude. Let the Democratic postures come. No, you're so privileged, chatter, for saying that like it's unconscionable to vote for a genocide heir. Yeah. You know who has the peak amount of privilege in this in American society and just in general, just in society in general, globally? Palestinians that are being murdered. That's what I think of when I think of like peak privilege. I think of like an entire Palestinian family just got wiped out by American rockets that we just sent happily to Israel.
The very soul of America is on the line. Ed O'Keefe is at the White House with more on Biden's landmark address. Ed, good morning.
Nate, great to see you. The president said it's been a privilege to serve.
The only privileged shadows are those who don't see the 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour. It's so funny to be like, yeah, dude, saying you're not going to vote for a genocide dare is a position of privilege is such a hilarious thing to say, because it's literally people who are privileged to be living on U.S. soil, who pay their taxes, using that privilege to genuinely try to protest against the least privileged people on the planet. Like the least privileged people on the planet, objectively in the gutter, being brutalized, having their homes destroyed. The fuck are you supposed to do?
Served the nation for more than 50 years and marveled that, as he put it, a kid with a stutter from Scranton, Pennsylvania could reach the peak of American politics. He also stressed the country.
I agree, but I also think that as a so brave to stay at home and just complain online, I literally am from a country without any rights whatsoever under a dictator. Then why are you chirping? Don't worry about it. Why are you chirping? Where are you from? I wonder which country that we up that this chatter is from. Eritrea. Okay. I did not know the answer. I'm not gonna lie. I thought he was gonna say Cuba or something. I was wrong. That's my one Eritrea chatter. That's crazy. Eritrean chatter, and I'm American now. Okay. So talk to me. Explain to me how it's a point of privilege. I'm not even saying don't do anything. I'm not even saying don't vote. I'm saying put pressure and say that you're not going to vote unless they change course. Explain to me why democracy is a thing if the people that we elect as our representatives don't have to even represent our interests. I do love that you have immediately subscribed to the American hog mentality of just being like, what do you mean? What do you think democracy is? They just like kind of do what they want to do, and then you vote for one team over the other, and both of the teams want to do genocide. Like the I don't ever want to be under a fascist who strips people of rights to even fight back. Yeah. Were you around when college campuses were erupting with students being like, hey, we're Jewish and we think it's unconscionable that like our college tuition is going to like defend this apartheid regime. And then the administration response to that was almost identical to the Black Lives Matter response. Were you there or were you sleeping? Yes, and I supported the protest. Okay. Not that much, it seems. The irony of the the sentiment that you're expressing here is that you're literally saying America currently has a democracy, and I don't want that to go away. And if you do the democratic thing of like trying to make demands over the people that you're voting for, then you shouldn't do that. It's like the liberal version of like, if you don't like freedom of speech, get the f out of this country. Voting is not a privilege, it's a right in this country. A right not everyone has. Dude, I don't think you understand the point I'm making. You're saying don't exercise your democratic muscles because democracy might go away. Do you not understand the inherent flaw in this argument? Please, it doesn't make sense. Anyway, we'll get back to you when you figure that out.
Faces some big choices in the months ahead.
I revere this office, but I love my country more.
Speaking from the Oval Office, President Biden explained his decision to end his campaign and support Vice President Harris instead.
You know, there is a time and a place for long years of experience in public life. But there's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices. And that time and place is now.
The president praised Harris as she watched from the campaign trail in Houston.
She's experienced, she's tough, she's capable.